Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Brand new.
Hey, we're talking brand new Joe. Hey, we're on a brand new show. Deep dives, blow by blow. Spotting Uzis and crossbows. Like a buzzball or a pogo. Got ninjas like Don Shadow. Comics are how I spend my dough. We're coming to you in stereo. It's time for Talking Joe. With Mark and Tim, here we go.
Brand new.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and I'm coming to you once again from the far reaches of the Energon Universe, where you are listening to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe Comics podcast. If you are new to the show, you can find out all about us over at the website. talkingjoe.co.uk is that website, and today we are talking about G.I. Joe issue number 20, which was released Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2026. The official synopsis said, Optimus Prime and Duke meet for the first time. What does this mean for the future of the Energon Universe? Joining me to find out what the future of the Energon Universe will look like, it's my co-host. It's a real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, listeners, viewers.
Greetings, Tim. Now, there's something different about me today. I'm wearing a green t-shirt. The front of it is slightly obscured by a microphone, but if I just shift a little bit and point my camera like this.
Oh, wow.
Can you see?
Wow, it's the Tom Riley Roadblock, Chibi Roadblock logo from his grilled cheese food truck, where Roadblock is wearing an apron and saluting and handing you a plate with the grilled cheese with some wavy orange lines behind him. Wow, that's great. Did you use that file that you pulled from the comic? Did you find it online? Did you reach out to the artist?
No, well, I took a decent image of the comic. I then got rid of the background. I tidied it up because the original image had all sorts of rust and shading and all sorts of things like that, using the very highest technology in Microsoft Paint. And and then, let's send it off to get printed. So I've got a one-of-one T-shirt. Speaking of T-shirts, there is a TeePublic sale, which is on tomorrow. So if you want some Talking Joe merch, you can head on over to TeePublic, the web store, links at talkingjoe.co.uk, and get yourself some merch if you so desire. We are live as at the time of recording. So hello to everyone who is joining us live, like Paul Morales, and like Infinite Entertainment. Hello, lads. The EU is becoming more and more tightly woven, and issues of separate series now follow directly from each other. You can't miss Transformers 2 Re-Joe. How will this affect how Talking Joe covers the story? Maybe we'll talk about that.
Episodes will just be longer.
Very good. So let's get into all of the news that has been happening, and I might have to play a jingle as we do that. Let me double check if there's anything in the running order. No, I think it is probably jingle time. And here we go. You can tell how prepared I am.
All around the skybound world, are you looking for some G.I. Joe? There's Autobots and Decepticons and creatures from the sacred brain. All we need is Energon, sweet Energon. There'll be Energon everywhere. There'll be robots swinging, aliens killing, and Decepticons in the streets. Yeah!
You took the right moment to fill your mouth with some snacks there, Tim.
Energon yummy.
let's start with the Energon Universe 3-year anniversary. It's the beginning of the new phase with the introduction of Mask. And Skybound are celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the Energon Universe that started with Void Rivals #1, with all new commemorative covers by Tom Riley, coloured by Adriano Lucas, featuring fan favourites from the world of G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, and Mask. In June 2026, there will be 2 sets of open-to-order connecting full art variant covers from Tom Riley and Adriano Lucas, and also black and white versions of Tom Riley's art. So it will join to make a beautiful image, as we see on screen at the moment, spread across 4 issues, Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Mask, left to right. You can see that, broadly speaking, there is some synergy between the title of the comic published and the characters featured. So Void Rivals is more Void Rivalsy, Mask is more Masky. So this is the 3rd anniversary. The first year anniversary covers looked a lot like this one on screen. This was by Jason Howard. The 2nd year anniversary looked a lot like this one on screen, also by Jason Howard. You can see Megatron had his freaky eye wires linked to Laserbeak, and Optimus Prime still had his Megatron arm cannon, which leads us on to the latest one, spread across the 4 issues.
Can you go back to the previous 2 just for a quick second? Yep. The first one, it's so yellow. And then the second one, it's so blue. And then the third one is so pink. And I love it. I think in the back of my head, Chris McLeod of the Full Force podcast says, has it been 3 years already? I think in the back of my mind, I thought this might happen, but it still took me by surprise. I also assumed it would be Jason Howard. And so the fact that it was Tom Riley really surprised me. I have, this is based on no evidence, but when we did our interview with Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley, and we said, what are you writing right now? What are you drawing right now? And they both said, he can't say, right? Tom Riley said, I can't say. I think he was either drawing, we think he was either drawing issue 21 of G.I. Joe. I kind of think now he was drawing part of this cover, because maybe with the Mask announcement coming up, this cover was maybe in the works a little later in the cycle than normal. I love everything about this cover. I love that Tom Riley's doing it, because Tom Riley's doing it because he gets to draw a bunch of Transformers. He gets to draw the Void Rivals characters. We get another view of Road Warrior, Duke, and Cobra Commander from the Dreadnought War. I like that Optimus Prime is more himself because he's got more of his arm back. I love how the Void Rivals characters on the far left, the humanoid size ones, and Matt Tracker and his car on the far right get a like compositional device so that they can be sort of low and closer, because otherwise in scale they'd be really small. So the Void Rivals characters are standing on some blocky, it's not quite debris stuff, let's say parts of their planets, and Matt Tracker and his car are just on like a platform that a car might be parked on. It doesn't connect to anything from, you know, a headquarters playset. It is so much fun, and I normally don't buy anything like this. I just save the JPEG onto my hard drive, but I might go for it for these 4. Super fun.
The biggest, the closest to an Easter egg I think I see is the Night Force team all the way up in the back on a Skyhawk. You've got Beachhead, Flint, Lady J, Roadblock, and Shooter up there, sort of stood on the top of this Skyhawk. And we've also got Mask as part of this 3-year anniversary, the 4th Energon ongoing.
Yeah. Can you go back to the image that has all 4 together with the purple border, and it has the 4 logo titles on the bottom? So it says comics, most iconic heroes and villains clash every week in the Energon Universe. Experience Void Rebels G.I. Joe Transformers Mask monthly. And I saw this ad this last week, and it really hit me that the Energon Universe is now a weekly concern. That, I mean, certainly when, G.I. Joe has run bi-weekly, or when there were these mini-series, Duke and Cobra Commander, or Destro and Scarlet, there was or seemed to be an Energon Universe comic every week. And certainly with something like Batman or X-Men, there are so many Batman comics, so many X titles, that there is something every week. But those often are telling very separate stories by different creative teams, even if they're working on their one editor. And what this reminds me of is DC publishing 52 or Countdown. It's two 52-week-long, year-long weekly series, or going back further, the Triangle era of Superman under editor Mike Carlin, when they were 3 and then 4 and then 5 Superman comics, so that there could be one every week, even a quarterly book, so that the those 4 months out of the year where there's a 5th week, they wouldn't skip. And since I am reading these 3 books that are currently going, and I'm very excited about Mask and will definitely read it, and I was not a huge Mask fan as a kid. I was a little Mask fan. It occurred to me when I saw this ad, and it says every week, experience monthly. I thought, oh, this story is overall getting pushed forward every 7 days. And even if, Void Rivals, I like it, it's not my favorite. Even if Mask, it's going to be awesome, but I don't have a big emotional connection to these characters. Although I'm really excited about the art and color. And Dan Waters has been writing a lot of books recently that I've been really enjoying. But I thought, oh, it's no longer like, G.I. Joe and Transformers, and then like, wait, every 7 days. Can't wait. So, Mark,
I was just going to call. Yeah, I was on mute. I wasn't. I can't zoom in too much further on this image beyond this, but I like one element. Well, a few elements. I like all of it. I'll hone in on a specific element, which is these Zartan. Let's pick a nice color. Zartan, who is here.
Oh yeah, very good, very good.
Just behind Hawk, that is very cool. We've also got
the way that he's standing. He's sort of he's almost propping him up, like Hawk
yeah.
It
looks like he's got looks like he's got a hand on the color on his collar. We've also got like a nod back to the Dreadnought War era of Cobra Commander and Duke together, and we've also sort of looking forward to Storm Shadow, who will appear in G.I. Joe 21, and Crystal Ball up here, just to behind Destro, who will appear in, I think, is it 22 through to 25, something like that. And we've also got a Tom Riley Pythona. I'm not entirely sure if Tom Riley has drawn Pythona before. So
also, it maybe goes without saying, but I feel like we should say it. Mask hasn't come out yet. All we've met are 2 Mask characters. Yorktown Joe says that image is full of fun. Over on the Mask cover, we have not just Match Tracker and Miles Mayhem, but like 4 other Mask characters. So, yep. And like, I get it. That's the cover to Mask #1. Of course, they're going to be some characters, but there was no guarantee that a whole bunch of Mask characters are debuting in issue 1. It could just be like, Matt Tracker tracking Miles Mayhem, and then like on the final page being like, I got to get a team.
Flag it up there on the on top of Ultra Magnus's shoulder.
I think part of what you're saying, Mark, if I may rephrase something that you're kind of saying, is that there is so much personality and sort of story hints in this cover. And we talked a lot about what a great artist Tom Riley is, and this is not just a bunch of characters standing there, right? Like, I don't need to compare Tom Riley to Jim Lee, right? But like, the like inside front cover to X-Men #1 with like the vertical gatefold, like version E, where it's got like all the X-Men and all of X-Force and all of X-Factor just like standing there head and shoulders in like a tall banner poster. Like, I love that image, but they're all just standing there, like, except for like Nightcrawler, who's like sort of chuckling, and maybe like Cable, who's looking a little bit put out. No one's sort of being like particularly themselves, but look at Spike and Carly. They're like pumping their fists, and they're sort of full of joy. And as you pointed out, the little bit of there's basically what I'm saying is there's a ton of body language here, and the way that characters are standing, the way that Megatron is sort of holding his wound, the way that Jazz has a smirk, the way that Destro is holding a Cobra banner, right? Like, even that alludes to that little story points at the beginning and the end of the Dreadnought War. There's so much going on here, and it would be a lot to draw this many characters on any one of these covers. It would be a lot to sort of coordinate a sketch and then like put 4 pieces of Bristol next to each other so that they really do line up and you are drawing a 4-part like gatefold cover. But to have them all acting is just extraordinary.
It is great. So let's move on to the next bit of news. Today, this last week gone, New Comic Book Day, it did have the release of G.I. Joe issue 20, which we will be talking about shortly. It also had G.I. Joe Volume 3, the Dreadnought War trade paperback. So for any new lapsed readers, I think G.I. Joe is still super accessible. You had your 4 introductory miniseries, which each have a trade paperback. Duke, Cobra Commander, Scarlet, Destro. They were then collected in 2 hardcovers, Codename G.I. Joe, Volume 1 and 2. And now we've got 3 G.I. Joe trade paperbacks collecting the G.I. Joe story, of which there will be a hardcover collecting, I think, the first 2 arcs of those. So 3 main ways to collect, sort of the monthly floppy, monthly-ish floppy, I should say, your trade paperbacks, and then your hardcovers. So it's nice that it's super accessible, and even if you're just getting in now, it's not too late to catch up because all of this stuff is so easy to get out. There's a comment there from Infinite Entertainment. He thinks that Volume 3 may have been pushed back to April the 1st, so it's possible that you might not find that one in the shops. Also out. Go on, Tim.
I'm looking at the Image Comics website, and it still says March 18th. But anyway.
So also out this week gone was G.I. Joe #1 6th printing. We talked about this one before. So great to see that it's doing that well that we're actually up to a 6th printing. This cover is by Sean Izaakse and Triona Farrell.
I will say, if anyone is looking for a particular cover of issue 1 first printing, because we had that Tom Riley signing at my store a couple days later, we ordered heavily, and we do still have a bit of all of the covers. So if there's something you're looking for, like a blank sketch cover or the like foil chameleon cover with no logo, we would ship to a G.I. Joe fan domestically.
Very good. So next up, also out this not quite week, but 2 weeks ago, was Transformers issue number 30, which is a very exciting issue. Who will lead the Autobots? It's Optimus Prime versus Elita 1, and the future of the Autobots hangs in the balance. One shall stand and one shall err. You know the rest from Robert Kirkman and artist Dan Mora. So these were the variant covers, and we're going to talk about issue number 30. It's a spoiler warning. Stuff happens in this issue, and stuff happens that is very pertinent to issue number 20 that we will be talking about in the rest of this episode. So let's get started on 30. Shall I jump in with some spoilers?
Do it.
Okay,
Do the thing
so
where the thing happens
do
with the
it.
guy.
So Elita 1 becomes Elita Prime, and that's because Optimus Prime has given her the matrix of leadership. He just becomes Optimus. His two glass windows on the front of his chest become just one window. That's the main plot point, I think.
Also,
and he looks a lot like the Optimus Prime that we would recognize from the Transformers 1 animated movie.
I mean, if I can, Mark, that's not where the maskless pre-Prime Optimus / Orion Pax originates. We have seen that in comics and animation before, but yes, most recently, that's where we all saw it. Yes,
and the Autobots are somewhat divided. There's a team who remain on Earth. Surprisingly, from his team, it appeared that Jazz isn't in this particular group, which was a bit odd because he had this big connection to the jazz music of Earth that had been established. But anyway, and also connection to, I guess, Optimus. So he has a team that remains behind, and some of the team go back to Cybertron under the leadership of Elita Prime. And they sort of disavow their Autobot membership, don't they? They sort of scratch off their Autobot sigils. So that is the status quo that we're left at as at the end of Transformers issue 30. Tim, thoughts?
my favorite part about this issue was that color artist Mike Spicer came back after taking 2 issues off. I thought the colors while he was gone were pretty good, but I didn't love them, so I'm glad. But generally, what Robert Kirkman is doing here is sort of reminding us that, just as no character is safe, like Bumblebee gets killed in issue 1 or 2, and a couple other characters have been killed along the way. Although in the Daniel Warren Johnson, Daniel Warren Johnson was the one who did that. Daniel Warren Johnson killed another character who Kirkman has sort of hinted he might be bringing back, even though it seemed like they were definitely dead. But anyway, Kirkman writes things like Invincible and Walking Dead, which he owns, where not only can he do whatever he wants, he wants to defy expectations, because we're sort of used to reading hundreds of issues of Batman or X-Men or Daredevil where you can break something, but you have to put it back together, right? Like Daredevil's secret identity is revealed, right? But like somehow everyone's going to not think about it or talk about it, or they're going to forget, or he's going to sue everyone. Good story, by the way. And you can kill Batman, but like Batman's going to come back from the dead or the ancient past or whatever. And Kirkman understands, and Daniel Warren Johnson understood this, that even though there are all these, it's like when you read a Transformers comic and you're I'm raising my hand here, a long-term Transformers fan, you think we're going to see certain things that we've always seen. You're going to see a Megatron, Optimus Prime battle early on. You're going to see them like battle again in a year or two. And then at some point, we think Unicron's going to show up, because Unicron showed up in the movie and the old comic and sort of the British comic and the IDW comic, even though they waited a long time, right? But that's just sort of the destiny of all Transformers stories. And in the same way that we keep not seeing Snake Eyes in the Energon Universe G.I. Joe, right? Kirkman and company are it's like, well, no, Optimus Prime isn't the Prime, right? Just as, he had Megatron's arm. So this stuff that really surprises you and then becomes the status quo, right? Bumblebee is not in this comic, right? Who's the like exciting, youthful sort of sidekick, like Luke Skywalker Autobot that all the kids can latch onto? It's Cliffjumper. And so in the same, so several things are happening here where, there's a Decepticon that's joined and the team is split and they're not Autobots and Prime's not Prime, and etc.
Yeah, very good. It was a bit of a quick status quo change in the pages of Transformers, and we'll get onto it. But it was very interesting to see this touch point into the G.I. Joe continuity so much as well. There's I think I had just sort of a recap of the continuity change from Greg Augustin. Amazon Prime has the Matrix. I think that's the main takeaway. Amazon Prime is now the leader.
Actually, every time you get a delivery, every time a truck pulls up to your apartment or house, they just bring you a Matrix.
And just as a general point, sort of, which sort of, when it comes to the comments that we're showing, where it's directly kind of linked to what we're saying, I'll try and pop it up if it's kind of a little bit of a separate topic that's going to take us a little bit off track. Then I might sort of either not post that post up straight away, or might leave it till later. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking about how I approach the comments in the feed.
And while I'm listing status quo, shaking, breaking things that Daniel Warren Johnson and Kirkman have done, didn't one of the aerial bots die? So there aren't 5 aerial bots that can become Superion. We're missing one. Although something like that did happen in the IDW run, and I'm not saying that anyone's copying an idea, but there's just one more example of, this is not a retread of Generation 1 from, 84, 85.
Cool. So next bit of news, we had some Skybound sharing some Pi-Par character designs from the pages of Mask. First up, Matt Tracker and Miles Mayhem. So Miles Mayhem looking very Miles Mayhem-y. And reminded from the designs that for each one of these characters, you've got 2 character names. You've got the person and their hat. I think that's what they call them, isn't it, Tim? So, hats, Crusaders.
Is this like Target Masters and Headmasters and Power Masters for Transformers, where like, oh, I got a guy. Oh, right, his gun has a name.
So Miles Mayhem and his hat, Viper, Matt Tracker, and his chapeau, Spectrum. So Matt Tracker looking very Matt Trackery there. We already had a nice turnaround from Tom Riley previously, because let's not forget that he appeared in the pages of G.I. Joe and the Energon Universe special ahead of time. So that initial design, I think, was coming from Tom Riley, and keeping pretty faithful to that, I think, in terms of how it's being interpreted by Pi-Par.
Mark, you know what Spectrum has?
Is it that when you turn it on, it goes? That's a 1980s computer reference joke there.
Oh, very good, very good. We didn't get that computer in the States. No, I was going to say that Spectrum's got such supervision.
Oh, right, yeah, because you can look out of the mask through the lenses with your vision. Right, and then we also got a reveal of 2 of the lady characters. A woman. What's that? Gloria Baker and Aura. Plus, can you read what that says? That says
Vanessa Warfield and Whip.
Whip. Is she a baddie?
Yeah,
Looks a bit
yes.
more like a baddie. Yeah.
I can't imagine a good guy having 2 colors in their hair.
It's a sure sign of evil.
Look at that! Look at that pose. Look at the way that on the left. Look at the way that she's taking a step, and her torso is just slightly twisted. She's taking a step toward you, right? Like, folks, if you like to draw and you think, man, all my characters are always just standing there, right? Like, look at this pose. Okay,
good. So that brings us on to G.I. Joe issue number 20. So this was brought to us by the creative team of writer Joshua Williamson, artist Andrea Milana, colorist Lee Loughridge, editor Russ letterer Russ Wooton, editor Ben Abernethy, publication design Andres Juarez, and production Abigail Lee.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Tim, you're mute. You're mute. Oh dear.
Just getting another lamp because it's dark in this room. Cover A, G.I. Joe number 20, is drawn and colored by Tom Riley. This is a straightforward cover. There's no background, but just a little bit of texture in this sort of sandy color. Optimus Prime, almost full body, is standing with his legs apart and his fists down, but ready. In front of him is Duke. Prime is looking down at Duke, and Duke is starting to turn to look behind him, sort of distrusting of this giant alien robot standing behind him. Duke is loading his pistol, which he has at the ready, although he is exercising, what's the term? Finger, not control.
Discipline.
Thank you.
Trigger discipline.
Trigger discipline. And this cover is so exciting because so much has been building to these two characters meeting, or maybe we should say Duke meeting any other Transformer. But it's also just a good reminder of what an excellent design the 1984 Flo Dairy Optimus Prime animation model sheet is, which this absolutely is a reference to, which is like then there was a studio in Japan, like Studio Ox, that was doing some animation model sheets where they were like drawing the toys, but those were like too much. And a lot of the toys for the 84 Autobots and Decepticons, like, we're not going to make good looking robot men. So there were a lot of adaptations. Anyway, this is an awesome cover. There is a, just go back if you could. There's a white highlight on Duke's head and neck and shoulders, which help separate him from Prime, but also just add some drama to him. And since I was talking about a very cool pose that's subtly not someone just standing there, right? Even though Prime here is symmetrical, he is standing like straight on. His head is a little bit forward, and you can see the tension in his arms, that they're not completely straight, and his fists are slightly cocked in. Similarly, drop a horizontal line from one shoulder on Duke to the other, and it's a diagonal because he is twisting and leaning, and he's putting a little bit more of his weight on one leg than the other. I love this cover. Well, Mark, it was like, you can go to the next slide. Like 6 weeks ago, I was like, hey, I might try and buy that cover. And he said, oh, it's already sold. It sold like the minute Tom Riley's art agent put it online. And I said, oh, they weren't going to wait till the issue came out. And he said, no, as soon as the cover got previewed, they could sell that cover. And I thought, well, that's okay.
That saves you some money.
It does.
And yeah, on this cover, it was sort of interesting. It kind of, you could almost look at it and think, that is this giant robot behind Duke? Is it almost a surprise to him? Does he not quite know he's there yet? And then he's loading this pistol sort of close to his chest, so that's sort of out of sight of Optimus Prime. But he's also displaying all of his Kinder Surprise eggs very proudly on his belt still.
There are times where a cover is a really great drawing of some characters and there's almost no background or no background. And I think, oh, come on, the artist could have put some background in there. Where are they? What's the context? And this is a good example of, you don't need any background. I don't need like two rocks and a doorway. I don't need a little bit of like broken, destroyed, Cobra hiss tank. I don't need Hound's foot and like Clutch's shoulder, right? It's just enough of an impression that this is outside and daytime, like the sun is directly overhead. I don't feel like this is inside headquarters. It's just enough that The color in the background lets the red of Prime pop. I love this cover. I love this cover.
And it's also I guess worth pointing out that it's Optimus Prime here on the cover, which does not match what is on the interior. And I was going to say
which Infinite Entertainment finishes that sentence by saying 0 out of 10, which might be a note of disapproval. But Mark.
Well, I think there's two things here at play. The first one is that this would have been drawn way in advance, and who knows where they would have been with the understanding exactly what would be on the interiors at that point of time. But more I think more importantly, you see the solicit way ahead of time, and sometimes those solicits of covers can be spoilery. And if this were to include a different version of Optimus, that would have spoiled the shocking reveal of Transformers issue 30. So I think by somewhat of a necessity, they kind of needed to kind of have a different image here, which is slightly different to what we see in the interiors. Also,
even though Optimus, who's not a Prime, is still quite recognizable as that character, with a different chest and no faceplate. It only like 85% is Optimus Prime, and there would be some confusion, right, for people who'd look at this cover and say, "Oh, who's that robot who's kind of like Optimus Prime, who's behind Duke?" And Infinite Entertainment tells us that he was joking. But go for it.
We've got Soul Bro Ryu here, who tells us a great story. Michael Bell, the voice of Duke, is currently at MegaCon and was introduced to the new G.I. Joe comic by my friend who had him autograph issue number 20 yesterday. Bell loved the spread page with Duke and Optimus, and he's going to try and get Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, to also sign the issue. So that's cool. That'd be a nice, unique set of signatures on this particular cover, which feels like an instantly iconic cover. And I think they're onto something good when it feels like that. It's instantly recognizable, and it's definitely not interchangeable with any other cover.
That's why I wanted to buy it. Are there other? Is there what's that convention that's happening right now? GalaxyCon. Larry Hama is a guest at GalaxyCon. I wonder if there are other. I haven't looked at the guest list. I wonder if there are other G.I. Joe and Transformers-ish people who are there right now. Oh, this is a neat image you have on screen, Mark. What's that?
This is a toy recreation of the cover, featuring a sort of slightly adapted G.I. Joe classified version of the Duke figure and some other version of Optimus Prime. I'm not with it enough to tell you exactly what toy this is.
Is that, can I guess? Is that Transformers Red, which was the...
okay.
Is it the one,
that
the ones that
don't transform?
Yeah, the line didn't last. It only lasted one wave, but it was Hasbro doing animation model specific, what's that, 6-inch characters. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that appealed to me, the aspect of the Transformers not transforming, because I always struggle. It's complicated business. And this is by Mass Device. I think I found this one on Instagram a little bit after the cover had been revealed. So on to the cover B by Joshua Cassara, colored by Romulo Fajardo Jr.
This is the Cobra Brass, Commander Destro, Chameleon, Mercer, Blood, Tomek, and Zaymot, a couple Cobra soldiers behind them. They're all standing facing left on an outdoor battlefield with smoke behind them and rocks. This connects with a cover for issue 19, right? Where the Joes were on the left side looking to the right, and they were sort of coming out of a little bit like the jungle, right? There was a little bit of green on that cover, whereas this one is very yellow. and this is neat. This is an art team. Joshua Cassara drew a bunch of X-Force comics during the Krakoan era, and while I wouldn't have guessed he might hop over to the Energon Universe 3 years ago, if he did more than just covers, that would be cool.
And he shared his creative process for this one, which was a lot of fun. So sort of a kind of a rough, blocky version of the layout, followed by pencils, inks, and grey tones, which was then colored.
Cover C is not a 1 in 10 ratio variant. This is open to order. This is another one of these Ben Oliver head and shoulder portraits. It's of Clutch. He's looking directly into my soul with his beautiful, soulful eyes. And his left eyebrow is slightly cocked. And this is definitely a character who is thinking something and feeling something. Once again, there's no background. There's just sort of a two-tone bluish behind him, which kind of feels like a concrete wall, but could also be sort of a nothing so specific. Once again, Ben Oliver is definitely drawing a specific character and not someone with a stock face, even though this does look like, a lot of sort of handsome leading men that we might think of in a general sense, but eyes, nose, lips, cheekbones, and general attitude. And attitude is really the sort of the peak of it here. This is a specific person, and I don't mean he's like drawing a famous person. I mean he has drawn a specific, unique character. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't immediately have a reaction to this one of the going, aha, it's this actor, but possibly he may have had someone in the back of his mind as he was creating that one. We've got another great cover D.
Cover D. This is the 1 in 25 ratio variant. This is drawn and colored by Tansy Zonchik. This is I sort of now understand this theme for this run of covers. In the foreground, there is an outline of a character's weapon, and in the positive space, as if that is a cutout, that character. And then everything around them, behind them, is their opposite number on the bad guy team, holding their weapon. So in this case, we see vertically the outline of Clutch's machine gun. It's all blacked out. Within that blacked out space is Clutch in profile, head and shoulder, sort of lit from the left side, just in two colors, yellow and light orange. And then everything around him is red and dark red, and a smirking Mercer holding is that a shotgun? A very cool piece of design.
And this is the second of 6 covers in this theme. So I think covering this whole arc. And Tonsi on his social medias was asked if this one was done in an analog fashion, as per the previous one, which he had labored so hard over. And he said that he had all of the paints ready, but unfortunately the body didn't cooperate. So only the first and most of the last one will be done sort of in that analog on paper style, with the others being done mostly digitally. And he said that he'll post a blog post, with the full process and the details once the 6th one is out.
Cover E is the 1 in 50 ratio variant. This is drawn by Jorge Corona and colored by Mike Spicer. The Energon Universe has been doing this a bit, which is really fun, where they're sort of, finger quotes, trading artists. So here, the artist who drew the 2nd and 3rd and 4th arcs of Transformers comes over to draw a G.I. Joe cover because it's got Transformers on it. So here we have Duke, Optimus Prime, and Hound all standing there looking down at us. There's a lot of sort of grit and like dirt and pebbles and, leaves and bits sort of blowing in the wind. all these characters are diagonal. So even though they're standing straight up, it's sort of the camera. There's no camera. It's a comic, not a film. The camera. This is at a little bit of a Dutch angle. And then on the top left, there is. Help me out, Mark. Is it the sun? Is it the sun behind like a mountainous outcropping? Is it the back of the Autobot spaceship like thruster? But there's a light source which does feel like the sun because it's pale yellowish. And
a bit like a sun, like a what do you call it? Like the that sort of cinematic kind of
lens flare.
Lens flare, yeah.
Yeah, this is not the lens flare tool in Photoshop. And this is not even really like drawn as a lens flare, but the impression of it is sort of the lens flare impression. There's a different tension in this cover because the comparison here, since it's got Duke and Optimus Prime standing there, you could compare this to cover A by Tom Riley. Whereas cover A, they don't look like they're working together. They look like they're having an antagonistic relationship. Here, it looks like these three characters are working together, even if they're not necessarily buddy-buddy, because look at their body language. Like Prime isn't like putting his hand up on Duke isn't putting his hand up on Prime's elbow or anything. We don't really see Hound. We see him from the back. Infinite Entertainment says, looks like an album cover. What is their band name? Their band name is Steely Soldier. And their first single is Desert Surprise. And the B-side is someone in the comments can come up with a punchline. This is a very cool cover. Jorge Corona is having a big week because over at DC Comics, Lobo issue 1, part of Next Level, which is the second phase of DC's big multi-year all-in publishing initiative. Lobo issue number 1 came out this week, penciled and inked by Jorge Corona, with some really nice Simon Bisley influence in there, which I sort of hadn't thought. When I saw his art, I just kept thinking like, oh, he draws like Daniel Warren Johnson in a good way because he's following Daniel Warren Johnson on Transformers. But, if you draw Lobo, you either draw Lobo like Simon Bisley or you don't. And I think a lot of people draw
it wrong.
And I think a lot of people want you to draw Lobo like Simon Bisley. So this is a fun cover. A little bit unusual that the signature is in the upper third, not anywhere in the lower third. I think that barcode has to go down on the bottom left where Hound's hand is. Are there any? And then cover F. This is not rare. This is not a ratio variant. Your store can order as many or as few as you want. This is the Invincible Month variant. This is drawn by Andrea Milana and colored by Andrea Milana. Cobra Commander, but the way that we saw him like a year ago before he got lost in a Mad Max movie. And Chameleon and Destro are fighting 3 Invincible characters, and I don't know who they are, but it's 3 G.I. Joe villains on the left and 3, I'm going to say, Invincible villains on the right, and they're standing on a bunch of rocks. So, Mark, who are these characters?
These are some members of the Lizard League. They are a parody of Marvel's Serpent Society. They're called King Lizard, not at all similar to King Cobra, Iguana, and Komodo Dragon. And the other synchronicity is that you can't really think of Lizard League without also thinking of, another sort of league that might be, or indeed the Serpent Society without thinking of Cobra. So there's a little bit of nice synchronicity here. Cobra against the Lizard League. Influenced by Serpent Society.
The B-side on that album we were just talking about is actually just all guest appearances by these 6 characters. Slithering Scales. The single is Slithering Scales.
Okay, very good.
You're welcome.
And then we did get a retailer variant this month, which was by Lucas Meyer. And this was through the Blank Cover podcast and available via Big Time Collectibles in the United States. A C2E2 foil Virgin variant featuring, and this is delightful, For a retailer exclusive, it does tie into the interiors. This features Duke and Optimus Prime, and it's a bit more of an action scene featuring the two of them compared to the slightly more static cover A. So yeah, I think this is a thumbs up for me for this particular variant.
Duke is running forward and firing. Prime is kneeling, but very much at the ready and firing. There is fire and smoke all around them. C2E2 is in 1 week in a city that Americans call C.
Okay, I didn't realize that they are that abrupt
you know
with
what?
it.
Maybe we should explain this. The convention is called C2E2 because it's CCEE, so Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo. So rather than, it's like Too Fast, Too Furious, right? And of course, we remember the sequel to that movie, Three Fast, Three Furious, and then the sequel to that movie, Fourious. Get it? Okay. Spelled Fourius.
Okay.
What's next?
Next up, we'll get into the interior of this particular issue with a little reminder of what happened with a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
Under orders from Miles Mayhem, Scrap Iron has ambushed Matt Tracker, and while he is able to remote activate his Thunderhawk car, Scrap Iron still gets the upper hand. But Clutch, Duke, and Hound arrive just in time, sending Scrap Iron fleeing with his tail between his legs. Matt uses his knowledge from Shadow Watch to fix Hound's transponder. He is offered a place with the Joes, but tells him he is done running before he runs off. With his transponder working, Hound takes the Joes to meet Optimus Prime, who is now just Optimus. He is depowered after surrendering the Matrix of Leadership. Duke is told that Starscream, the robot that started his crusade, is dead. Duke reflects on his quest for vengeance. Starscream may be dead, but the war is not over. Duke and Optimus have a heart to spark. That was me. That was a little thing I did.
Wow, that's great.
And form an alliance, while Hound decides that he wants to stay with the Joes rather than returning with the Autobots. Elsewhere, in Japan, Covergirl meets Snowjob and briefs him on Hawk's new mission. 24 hours to bring back Scarlet. Dead or alive?
Another song off of that album, not the single, but the first track on side B, Heart to Spark. Okay, so Mark, we have been building up to Duke meeting Optimus Prime, or maybe in a broader sense, sort of the rest of the G.I. Joe team, or any part of the G.I. Joe team that hasn't been in the loop as much as Clutch or Risk, meeting an important Transformer, right, for a long time. And the cover made a promise. So 2 questions. How did this issue overall hit you? And also, I'm assuming you had read Transformers 30 one week earlier, which
Fortunately I did.
Which inadvertently set you up for this. So how was your experience reading issue 20 of G.I. Joe?
I thought to myself initially, am I teeing myself up for a bit of a error detected, or a bit of frustration about continuity here? Because I've just seen Optimus Prime changing into just Optimus, and here on the cover we've got Optimus Prime. So I was somewhat delighted that we had that kind of nice sort of confluence of continuities where it felt very much like the issue that I'd read 1 week before led nicely into what was happening here, and that the continuities were very closely aligned. And for the most part, the various books have been fairly standalone, that you can enjoy them on their own merits, and you don't need to read one issue to benefit from to read the other, and there isn't like a thing at the end of the issue that says at the end of issue 30 of Transformers, to be continued in G.I. Joe issue 20, it doesn't feel like you're being forced that you have to read the other issues. So it feels like my big takeaway and my high level from this was that it felt like you were being rewarded as a reader of both titles, but not necessarily being punished if you didn't. It felt like you could read just this without reading Transformers, and you were still given enough of a recap that it would make perfect sense, and you wouldn't have to have read the previous one the week before. But having done that, it was a nice little reward where you could. Because to put a fine point on it, for the most part, G.I. Joe and the various titles have been relatively standalone, and there's just been the odd touch point where you can kind of see what's happening in the other titles. So like Transformers #2 had Duke and Frosting and the death of Frosting, although that sort of led off into Duke, but then Duke recapped that, so you wouldn't necessarily even have to have read that issue. And then you had a bit of a slither of Cybertron falling into the ocean in the pages of Transformers, and that getting picked up in the pages of G.I. Joe #1. But again, you didn't necessarily have to have read that for that kind of thing to have made sense. And for the most part, the continuity of Transformers has been kind of there in the background. It's not really been too heavy a point. It's just been like the Battle of Chicago sort of being referenced in terms of G.I. Joe helping with the cleanup, or Cobra seeing it on some monitors in the background, rather than it sort of being too heavy-handed with it. So it feels like a bit of a paradigm change in terms of just having that definitive point of we've got the Optimus Prime reveal one week, and then it feeling like it really sort of nicely leading into this the following week. Albeit, I don't think there was even an old-fashioned Marvel editor's note asterisk saying, as revealed in the pages of Transformers issue 30.
I mean, they haven't been doing any of that, right?
I can't recall them really. No. Maybe there might have been one where they said about some of the events of the Pythona stuff. They might have said there might have been a callback to that as shown in the Energon special. Maybe that's a half remembered thing.
I feel like the Energon experience page after the letters page does this for you. It tells you the exciting spoilery thing that just happened in the issue that you read, and then if you're like reading the other books, it's sort of are these repeated month? Well, let's see. At the end of Transformers, the Energon experience page it's
different. Yeah, I think they're normally unique.
Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the Energon Universe one has a picture of Optimus, and it asks a question of Dan Mora. Who's done? He's going back to only drawing lots of stuff for DC. And then the Energon Universe page at the end of G.I. Joe has a picture of Scrap Iron, and it asks a question of Ben Oliver. I think your take is a very good one about being rewarded and not being punished. I had kind of forgotten that, just a week earlier in Transformers, I read that Optimus Prime is sort of depowered, and I just sort of in my brain reset when I saw the cover of G.I. Joe 20, and I kept thinking Duke's going to beat Optimus Prime, not Duke's going to beat Optimus, and they're going to have to explain what just happened in the other book. But also, I had thought that the books were not running all concurrently at the same time, because you and I had talked about this while over in like issues 8 through 14 or so of Transformers. The Transformers are destroying, is it Seattle? I can't remember. And the Joes are barely mentioning it. And then they do later, and they sort of get waved off. Like, we can't deal with that. And so I actually thought in the back of my mind that Duke would meet Optimus Prime in G.I. Joe 20, and this scene would just take place before what had happened a week earlier in Transformers 30. That it would have happened somewhere between, Transformers 26 and 29. And I'd be fine with that, because that seems like how it's all been all along.
Yeah, a little bit of a fuzzy continuity of like, don't
Well,
worry too much about exactly what happens when, and
Yeah,
it's not necessarily one month is what the same month.
Yes, I mean, maybe not fuzzy continuity, like because it all is in continuity. It's just sort of there's no like for us the readers specific timeline where now is always now, and this is one of the things that people like about say Marvel or DC, where if you're reading like Batman and Batman like is no longer Batman and someone else's Batman, that's going to be reflected over in Justice League and maybe in every book, depending on how sort of big an event it is. And, if the editors are talking, when there's one editor for these 4 books, when this universe is just 3 books, soon to be 4 books, it is easier to do this. And for 4 books, there are only 3 writers. But this is a good reminder that, this is what editors do, right? Like there's an email thread or there is a like Excel spreadsheet from 2 years ago where Ben Abernethy and Joshua Williamson and Robert Kirkman are agreeing that Duke is going to meet Optimus Prime in G.I. Joe 20, right? And maybe earlier on, Prime was still Optimus Prime, and sort of Joshua Williamson has this idea, or excuse me, Kirkman has this idea writing Transformers a little bit later, not even recently, and then sort of they make an adjustment. But this is that coordination, and when I just lost my thread. At the same, yeah, okay, it's back
yeah. Why not? Sure. And yeah, beyond sort of just the nice bit of the how this has been executed. I do like a shift in paradigm, and that's a fancy way of saying when things change, because like for so much of like let's say Batman, it's Bruce Wayne, he's in a cowl, and then if you sort of turn things up, you have his back broken. That's exciting because you're in a new world and you sort of things a little bit less expected. So when you've got something sort of shaking things up, an unexpected thing happening with Optimus Prime, for example, that makes it, for me personally as a reader, that makes it slightly more interesting for me because we're kind of in a bit of an unexplored new territory, and you sort of, it's less hard to predict what is going to happen next.
If I may,
go on.
Add to that Batman comparison, right? Like Batman gets his back broken, he isn't Batman, someone else is Batman, and then you have this expectation, well, somehow Bruce Wayne's going to come back and be Batman, and even that'll be a story, and then I'll be excited because he'll be Batman again and things will be back to normal, and I won't have had that for a little while. But 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times over the 80 years of Batman, it's normal Batman where Bruce Wayne is Batman, and you can break it. You can break something, you can break the toy, but then you have to put it back together and put it back on the shelf for the next writer, for the next generation. And this is a nice sort of convergence of what I was saying and what you're saying, where I think Skybound has demonstrated to us and will continue to demonstrate to us that the Energon Universe can continue to be broken, that they can continue to shake up the status quo, and that, yeah, I actually do think Optimus will become Optimus Prime again at some point, just as I'm sure Snake Eyes is going to show up at some point. But by mixing things up and delaying it, then that becomes a potential exciting story point that Optimus you look forward to when Optimus can become Optimus Prime again. Yes, but I want to say the other side of it, which is that it's entirely possible that Kirkman and Skybound are saying to Hasbro, no, you've had 40 years where the most important Transformer is Optimus Prime, and the second most important Transformer is probably Bumblebee, right? Because he's like the sidekick, and like everyone loved him and all the marketing stuff from the first live action movie. So like he can't talk in the second movie, even though he got fixed at the end of the first movie. And then he's like the main character in his own movie, right? Like who's gotten their own Transformers movie? It's not Megatron. It's not Starscream. It's Bumblebee, right? And like who, like in Transformers 1, who's the other Autobot that we're all excited about? Bumblebee, even though that's not Bumblebee. But anyway, but I think what Skybound might be saying to Hasbro here is, okay, you've had this status quo for all these years, movies, shows, comics. What if just Prime isn't Prime? Semi-permanently, not like for 6 months or for 3 years. Like, because if Kirkman took over Batman and there were like there was like a Batman comic and a Superman comic and a Batman Superman comic and a Justice League comic, like he would start breaking this stuff. Because by the end of Walking Dead, everything is different. Some characters didn't make it through. Some characters became bad. Some good characters became evil. Rick's got like different hair and he's missing a hand and he's walking with a cane and he's got a beard, right? And he's like grown up. And so I think to some extent, this is what Skybound is doing. And I'm not saying that like Elita 1 is going to be Prime forever, but I do think it's possible that okay, because the comparison is, if you're going back to the source material, right? In the 80s, Optimus Prime is the leader of the Autobots in 84 and 85. And then the animated movie comes out in 86 and he dies. And then someone else takes over. And that was going to be the new status quo. But kids got upset and Sunbow had cold feet. And so 2 episodes are like rushed where Optimus Prime comes back from the dead. And so like in sort of our minds where Transformers Generation 1, the original cartoon, continues, Optimus just keeps being the Prime. And it's like, sorry, Rodimus, you're Hot Rod again, right? And and so I think this will continue to happen where like, because big stuff, we know that big stuff is coming, right? Like Cobra Law is out there and Cobra Commander is going to have some kind of reckoning, and you know, something may happen with Chameleon and something may happen with Baroness. And it keeps us guessing because Skybound has a track record for doing this. I think there's a lot of trust with Skybound. It's only 4 books, so it's not getting out of control. And, you know, it's like there's a Decepticon on the Autobots right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's the history with that thing, isn't there, with that particular character that he's always
doubted.
Yeah. So to something you just mentioned as well, I think, you know, you talk about Optimus Prime always being the main Transformer, and I think quite possibly Optimus is likely to remain the main character in the Transformers book, the hero character. We'll see a bit, but I don't know that we'll necessarily shift the camera lens of the book too far away from Optimus's adventures, even though he no longer has the Matrix. I also thought about something that like Dan Slott was saying when he was doing the Superior Spider-Man, where they killed off Peter Parker and they made Dr. Octopus Spider-Man for a couple of years. And he was like, there was a lot of backlash and all sorts sort of against the book and him specifically as the creator. It
was great. I read all of it. It was great.
And yeah, it was a great book. It was really enjoyable. And but he couldn't quite out and out say it at the time, but subsequently he was like, we weren't going to kill Spider-Man and never bring, Peter Parker and never bring him back. That just wasn't happening. As a comic reader, you kind of have to have to understand there's certain dynamics. We're not going to kill someone like Spider-Man, get rid of him. That would be crazy. But also, we're not going to come out and say, yeah, he's going to come back in 2 years. Just be patient. So you've got to have a little bit of mystery for your reader. Let's
There's while we're talking about this scene, I just want to point out 2 things that I was really struck by. One is in the double page spread. Do you have that you can put on screen, or should I just hold up my comic and you can put me full screen?
I'll get to it. Give me a second. This is page.
So Duke walks up to Optimus and he's finishing a line and he says, "Thank you for agreeing to meet me in a neutral location, Optimus Prime." And Optimus says, "I am Prime no longer." And you know what actually occurred to me when I saw this? The third thing that occurred to me, since I've been thinking a lot about word balloon placement recently, is, okay, folks, if you have never lettered a comic before, either by hand on paper or in a computer, look at this spread. Duke's word balloon is right above him, slightly to the left of his head, because he's talking first. It's on the left. And then Optimus's word balloon comes next. Would you put this where it is, or maybe over that right shoulder? Like over the shoulder, like by the cloud, by the smokestack, over his left shoulder. And I don't know exactly if there's a right answer here, but I like thinking about word balloon placements, because part of it is I'm thinking of this as a comic book that's got a fold, and Mark is, I think, thinking of this right now as a giant rectangle because he's got a digital file. And I think I would love to. Basically, what I'm saying is I would love to talk to Russ Wooton about this, because I think either is good. But I don't think you could put it anywhere else, actually. Okay, and then the other thing that I thought about.
I was going to say, I think if you put it over on the other shoulder, as you say, I think that'd be too big a gap.
Okay,
it's a conversation. You need the bubbles to be close together, and you need it to be reading down to top left down to bottom right. So it makes perfect sense. And also the way he's positioned it, it's also like a little bit more contrasty against the color of the sky rather than against a stark black, stark white.
I mean, I was gonna have it half on the cloud and half on the green sky. But thank you for saying that. It needs to be closer because it's a conversation. Because the pause between the pause between Duke and Prime's Optimus's dialogue is shorter. Very good. And then the other thing is, I was
laughing at this comment here from Barking's Fridge. I would put it by his knee joint to show that he's lower in status than before. Even his speech bubbles be lowered. Greg points out that he sees an ambiance of this scene in their field of wheat or wherever it is, from the film Seven.
You know what's in the box?
What's in the box?
In the box is Megatron's arm and his fusion cannon. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages later, this exchange really caught my attention. Infinite Entertainment says Optimus's placement is also spaced away from Duke's, symbolizing the distance between them, but also not too far away to symbolize their soon-to-be unity. Yes,
there was also a top-down sort of reaction to this, which I forgot to kind of quite get to, which is that the promise of the cover was potentially, sparks will fly, sparks, you had this thing building up with Duke, this antagonism towards all Transformers. And so that was kind of my expectation a little bit going in, seeing the original solicit and the kind of the text. But we kind of seen that.
You thought they'd yell at each other, or
you thought that Duke would yell, be more confrontation.
They'd fight. Duke would yell.
But then we saw that to some considerable degree in terms of his reaction with Hound. And he sort of reached a place of more understanding that there's these separate factions. He sort of I think got to grips with the idea that Hound could be this good guy on their side. So it sort of took the air out of that particular balloon, I think, and so having a quieter moment in their interaction, it feels more natural, and it also feels like you're not just hitting repeats on the same point that you'd already kind of hit before with that particular note with the Hound interaction.
We were talking, I'm going to jump back. We were talking about when this takes place. And I think this issue of G.I. Joe actually has to take place between pages 17 and 18 of Transformers 30, if we're being really specific.
Because he's not scratched out his Autobot sigil yet. Okay.
Yes. Which reminds me of Diana Davis's explanation for when G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures, the IDW miniseries set in the animated world, takes place, because like sort of who's in it and who's not in it, and I think Diana's answer was it takes place between part 1 and part 2 of Arise Serpentor Arise, which was very funny and smart. There's something which really strikes me 4 pages later in this scene with Duke and Optimus. Yeah, can you zoom in on those top 2 panels? This really caught me by surprise, and I think I read it and I sort of kept reading, and then I thought, whoa, wait a minute. Duke says, if you're lying, or if you betray me or anyone on my team, try to pull some alien takeover BS, I will not hesitate to use everything I have to destroy you. And he has just said that he had fantasized about killing all the Transformers as revenge for his friend because of this, robot invasion. And Optimus says, if it were to come to that, I would fear for your safety. Which is, and then Duke thinks about it. Duke says, I'm glad we have an understanding. And Optimus, in his very Peter Cullen. I don't hear Peter Cullen when I'm reading this Optimus Prime, but Peter Cullen is always floating in my head when I'm thinking about Optimus Prime. And at BotCon many years ago, Peter Cullen was talking about coming up with the character, and he mentioned 2 or 3 different people, but he mentioned Abraham Lincoln. But this line here where Optimus it's a threat, but it's also showing great concern. I would fear for your safety. Like, well, if you attack us, we are powerful and we would defend ourselves, right? But it's such a gentle way of saying that. And this is the most interesting line of the issue, and it is one of the more interesting things I have read Optimus Prime or Optimus say in the comics.
Yeah, I've heard people sort of react that they think that the writing of Joshua Williamson here has sort of really captured kind of the tone and the voice of Optimus well, in terms of his take. Which, given that it's not his home book, it's good that it feels like it's hitting the right notes in terms of what feels like would be right for Optimus. And while we're on this kind of exchange, you've kind of got the grown-ups talking. a lot of it is kind of outshot, and the kids down there, Hound and Clutch are like, this is a great moment. They're sort of, what are they talking about? It's kind of what you might imagine, kind of kids sort of trying to listen at the door, as grown-ups having important conversations, and then it's sort of see them coming back. Here they come! Shush, 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 shush. Which is a great comic moment, and I think a lot of the weight that's been on Clutch's shoulders for a long time in terms of all of the secrets he's been having to keep are sort of gone, and we're sort of seeing the kind of the lighter side of Clutch once more, which is nice.
You know what? I don't know if I've said this out loud. All the Autobots and Decepticons, their lettering is italicized. And of course it is a more squarish font than the font that Russ Wooton is using for the humans, for Clutch and Duke. But I'm looking in the pages of Transformers as well, right? Certainly they've got more squarish word balloons, and they've got the little like lightning bolt jagged pointer. But here on these 2 panels that you have, Clutch is speaking in an unitalicized font, and then except for when he says blah 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 and shush shush shush, and then Hound, everything he says is italics, and that's since everyone just asked me to wax about lettering for a few minutes, in Transformers Generation 2, Comicraft came up with a really specific font treatment, word balloon treatment. You could tell if Autobots were talking or if Decepticons were talking, and there were even colors involved. Back in Transformers Generation 1 at Marvel in '84, letterer Janice Chang came up with those 3 points on all 4 corners of these rectangles for the word balloons. But they're robots and they talk differently, and we're either trying to capture very generally that they're robots and they talk differently, or sort of the actual vocoder effect that the 80s Transformers cartoon applied to all of the voice actor recordings, some more than others, which gave it that sort of added like metallic layer. Cool.
But
okay.
yeah, Russ Wooton is lettering both this book and the Transformers book, which helps with the consistency and in terms of treatment of the Transformers. Which I don't know if you said that, but it helps keep it all nice and consistent. A big part of this scene, I guess, was Duke finding out that Starscream was no more. That Starscream is dead. Is pushing up the daisies. And so that reaction to that from him of being told that, and that being such a driving part of his crusade. How did you feel about that moment and his reaction to it?
I thought it was great. I was actually distracted because 2 panels later, can you scroll down a little bit? After the wordless, now scroll up. That was 5 panels later. Just 2 panels later. Scroll up a little bit more. Okay. Duke has a wordless surprised reaction. And then Andrea Milana, who we have not talked about yet this episode, does a great job this issue. This one panel here threw me off because it kind of looks like Duke is stepping to walk to the right because Hound is on the left and Optimus is on the right. But then in the next panel, Duke has walked a great distance to the left. And I think what we're seeing in the panel after his wordless reaction is him moving his feet so that he can sort of turn around where he is. But it looks like he's starting to walk to the right. So that actually confused me because in the next panel I thought, oh, did Clutch walk away? Oh, is Duke still between them? No. Duke's on the left. Oh, okay. Did the camera swing around? No. Hound's on the left. So the camera didn't cross the 180-degree line. And then I thought, I'm thinking about this too much, considering it's like just 2 wordless panels of a guy walking. At the same time, folks, if you're listening to this podcast, this is what I do. This is what we do. So
yeah, and given it is a single panel, each panel is important and is there to kind of draw your attention to a specific thing. That panel did throw me a little bit as well because it was kind of zoom in. There's a lot of similar sort of colors going on there, so it's a little bit harder to see exactly what's going on. And as you say, sort of, it looks like possibly he's walking to the right rather than the left, as we see in the next panel, unless he's moonwalking.
Very good. I mean, the trailer for that Michael biopic movie was just released. To answer your actual question, I thought this scene was great. I had kind of forgotten that Starscream had been killed because I think a lot of times I'm reading Transformers in bed right before I go to sleep, and I'm reading G.I. Joe like in the morning right after breakfast. And so many characters have died. I love Transformers, folks. So many characters have died that I actually can't keep track of it. And I keep sort of reading them and then thinking like, I got to reread the last issue before I read the next issue. And then I don't, there's no time. There's too many comics to read.
That was actually my first reaction to him being told Starscream is dead. My first reaction was, oh, Starscream's dead. I have to go back and reread those particular comics. And for the benefit of the listeners, because we do provide a public service here, in the pages of Transformers issue number 24, Starscream takes a shot to the head from Megatron's cannon. But his head kind of disintegrates in it. Yeah, it's kind of half of his head is kind of missing from that.
Right.
And then subsequently in the start to Transformers issue number 25, he takes a bit more of a stomping from Megatron and is left for dead. Although when we last see him, he looks like he's got a kind of a red eye blinking on. And also, I get the sense, I mean, I'm not a Transformers expert, but I kind of get the sense that Transformers can come back from the dead mostly. unless they have like their spark or unless Megatron bites their neck and drinks their juices out or whatever that was. When is a transformer dead? So I think this means that Starscream isn't dead, but that door is left slightly ajar for him to return at some point. In which case, that will be something for Duke, won't it?
Unless Duke is dead. Okay, so we've talked a lot about this scene. We should probably jump back to the beginning and talk about Matt Tracker and Scrap Iron. Infinite Entertainment, or I think it was Infinite Entertainment and not Chris McLeod. Someone made a good point earlier in the podcast in the comments that this stuff is now really integrated. And I do think a lot of the first 6 issues of Mask will be its own thing. I think, like one supporting G.I. Joe character will show up for like 4 pages, Flag, or like maybe Clutch on the phone, like, hey, Matt, so glad you got your own book now. Bye. Right. But the opening 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of this issue of G.I. Joe are mostly a Mask hero and a Cobra villain. And it doesn't not feel like G.I. Joe, but it's not screaming G.I. Joe. It's screaming, exciting action comic and just larger Energon universe, particularly since Scrap Iron doesn't have his helmet on. So he looks like sort of more of a general bad guy. And as you pointed out in our last episode, he's not driving a Cobra vehicle. He's just driving a vehicle that's been very slightly sort of Cobra-ized. And whether or not it's a Mask vehicle, it's not like he's in a Hiss tank or a Stinger. And at the same time, I was not feeling like, hey, we're the Joes. I was just riveted by this scene because Andrea Milana draws action so well. And then the spread across 2 and 3 with the car, and the car has a name, right? Remember, folks, G.I. Joe characters, 1 code name. Transformers, you've got 2 things. You've got the robot and the alternate mode. And then Mask, you've got 3 names because you've got a person, a vehicle, and the mask. But Matt Tracker's something Hawk, Tiger Hawk, Chevy Hawk, Camaro Hawk, Red Hawk, Car Hawk, Automobile
Thunderhawk.
Hawk. Thank you. Thunderclap, Thunderclutch.
But there's 2 things about his special car that is activated by his watch in this sequence. One, his Thunderhawk car is not named, and 2, it doesn't do the thing.
Yes, the doors don't pop up. It doesn't get super pursuit mode like thrusters, and it doesn't fly. I think we're saving that for Mask issue 1, which is total, or G.I. Joe 21 or 22, and that's totally fine. But this scene is great. If you're going to draw G.I. Joe and Transformers, if you're going to draw Void Rivals, you got to be able to draw spaceships. But there is no established rule that you have to be able to draw cars or, let's say, land vehicles. But these other 3 properties, you have to be able to draw land vehicles and then also like planes and ships. But and this always looks like either an actual Camaro or like 90% of a Camaro and slightly less of a Camaro in case they're worried about like infringement. I'm glad that people are still fleeing from this from the in the stands, like on the bottom 2 panels of page 1 and then on the top of page 3, and for the sort of trope of like out of control car or vehicle about to hit like a baby carriage, like in Ghostbusters 2 or like Kids, which we've just seen in like movies and comics. I thought the actual, turning the wheel and skidding and, not hitting the kids. And it's sort of nebulous where the kids are. Like the two panels where we see the kids and the soccer ball, there isn't so much background that it's like, oh, they were just on the sidewalk and the ball went into the street and they ran after it. Or like, oh, there are two suburban houses and a fire hydrant and like one car parked on the street parallel. It's like, no, it's just, I get it. It's enough. Like I just want a lot of speed lines in the background. And as long as sort of the screen direction of like cars driving left to right and like missiles going left to right until they get turned around. And then this final panel on page 5 where Matt actually turns around, skids out and is gonna get destroyed and killed by scrap iron. And I thought, oh no, his car isn't like a fancy plane yet. So it's not super armored. So I think the car is going to get trashed. It's like, well, that explains why he's going to have to rebuild it. And it's going to be a plane in mask number 1. And then you turn the page and this great surprise happens. And this is one of those things that I would not think to do. I am not a color artist professionally in comics. I'm barely even an amateur color artist in my mind. But Lee Loughridge does something quite bold here. And which is all 3 cars in this first panel on the page of on the top of page 6 are dark and muted, and it's the background and the sound effect that is bright and loud, and that's just great and surprising. And I think sort of part of the surprise of Hound and saving the day and anyway, so that was a really fun page turn. Mark?
And there's a sort of great sort of, very manga or sort of cartoony kind of reaction almost to some degree on Scrap Iron here, because this might be his first interaction with a Transformer. I might be misremembering something, but this might be the first time that he's actually encountering a Transformer, because he wasn't there in the Dreadnought War. He wasn't there when Hound attacked previously. That was Mercer. I think a fairly rational reaction to seeing a giant robot, attacking you would be to say, okay, I think I'll go. maybe I won't continue this one. So yeah, goes, never mind. Mayhem doesn't pay enough for giant robots and Scarpers.
And then the next 2 panels on page 7, panels 2 and 3, just a little bit of really nice connective tissue. This is another thing that I really appreciate from a writer of fiction, where Clutch says, and is looking off panel in the direction that Scrap Iron fled. Should we follow him? And I'm thinking, follow him. He's a bad guy. The Cobra, you're worried. Follow him. And Duke says, normally I'd say yes. And then we see Duke see Matt Tracker. And Duke says, but I have a feeling if we did, we'd never find your friend again. And I thought, okay, maybe you could like split the teams. Like, Hound, you chase him. Like, you're fast. Or like, let me shoot my Batarang Spidey Tracker on the monster truck with missiles on it. Or like, let me radio headquarters and have them do like a satellite move and track it. But this is a small team. They don't have that tech. Hound is not that fast. Maybe Hound is sort of low on Energon or something. And I thought there's enough cover here in these 3 word balloons that while I do want them to find some way to follow him, the story needs them to not follow him. And this is enough. And I like this bit of story logic where Duke says, if we did, we would lose Matt Tracker, and we need Matt Tracker. And I thought, yeah, that's great. And then Matt Tracker has this really funny reaction, right? And I sort of don't think of G.I. Joe as a funny comic, but here and there, Williamson, or, in the pages of Scarlet or Destro, there's been like a little bit of a punchline, and the font is a little bigger and it's bold and it's italicized, and Tracker is yelling because I didn't want to be found.
Yeah. I mean, we sort of forget it a little bit because there's so much else going on, but I think Joshua Williamson does have a great ear for dialogue and creating a lot of personality in the characters that are being written here. So in terms of plot, we've had Scrap Iron chasing after to Matt Tracker Joe's coming in and doing the rescue, and they are there because they think that Matt Tracker is the man to fix Hound's transponder so that he can then find Optimus Prime. And he's getting his guts in there and fixing things for Hound. And they touch on, again, another continuity point that that Tracker had been in this shadow. What are you calling? Shadow Watch, where
was it Skynet? Is it Skywatch?
Shadow Watch, which is this sort of mysterious
Scotch
thing
tape
that I think is overseen by Flag, and was what Mild Mayhem was working on, and that he'd obviously been set up. So he's using that experience working with Shadow Watch, where they had those couple of Transformers in their care, let's say, practicing dissecting. So he's used that kind of knowledge established there to that it's not a totally unfamiliar thing that he can sort of rummage about in Hound's guts and fix that transponder. And he's done running, so he's off into the pages of Mask #1 or the Energon Universe special #1, leaving Hound, Sklutch, and Duke to track down Megatron.
Wait, to track down Optimus?
No, sorry, I said Megatron.
That's okay.
Track down Optimus.
I mean, Optimus was 1/8 Megatron for like a year and a half with his arm.
Right.
All right, so since we've talked about that scene, I'll just jump to the end of it. So there's the page on the right side where they all agree that they'll work together, and Hound Optimus transforms. And here's another fun page turn. Optimus says, "Of course, but in honor of your Hound's new allies," right? He's transforming. And I thought, oh, he's going to say it. He's going to say Autobots roll out. And the thing about a line like Autobots roll out, or like one shall stand, one shall fall, is I really don't want it to be forced. And in the first episodes of Transformers in 1984, in More Than Meets the Eye, parts 1 and 2 and 3, it might not even be in part 1 because they don't have wheels yet. They're not on Earth. Let's say parts 2 and 3. When Optimus says Autobots roll out, it gets me excited. I get sort of filled with like pride and anticipation, but also Optimus Prime is such a warm character that when he's saying it, it's not like Decepticons attack, like I'm better than you, I'm more powerful, do what I say, right? Prime is both issuing a command, but also encouragement. And I love the character of Optimus Prime, not in the live action movies. And so I'm turning the page and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to say Autobots roll out. I'm like 80% on board, and this is 20% Joshua Williamson like pointing, like, I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to do a thing that you want me to do, that you expect me to do. And here it is. Are you ready? And I turn the page, and as I'm reading it, he says, G.I. Joe roll out. And my brain thought of two things that were slightly in opposition at the same time. One was, oh, well, that's a little cheesy. And like Joshua Williamson is like sort of nudging me with his elbow. Like, aren't I defying your expectations by inserting the thing that makes more sense for the context because you're reading an issue of G.I. Joe? And then the other half of my brain just sort of like giggled and shuddered in excitement. Like, oh, Optimus Prime just said the word G.I. Joe. He's doing the line, but he's saying my guys. He's saying G.I. Joe. He's not saying Autobots. So this page filled me with a warm glow, just like the red of that sunset.
And here's the thing, Tim. We get to see Optimus's alt mode in the pages of G.I. Joe before those Transformers loving freaks got to see it in the pages of Transformers.
Yes,
how's about that?
It goes both ways. G.I. Joe fans, sorry, you got to read all 4 books. Transformers fans, sorry, you got to read all 4 books.
And when I went to the comic shop the other day, the guy who's behind the till said he wasn't really a G.I. Joe guy, but because of the Energon Universe, it was more of a Transformers guy. He was picking up G.I. Joe and was loving it. So another little information point there, pointing towards people discovering G.I. Joe, which can only be a good thing. I did have an observation on the previous page where Optimus was describing a situation to Hound. So Hound said that I wish to stay with Clutch and G.I. Joe. There's a choice. I believe I can be most use hunting down Cobra, but I'll need Energon for the road. And Optimus explains that General Flag has a small bunker of Energon. It helped fuel and revive our brothers and sisters. I managed to secure a small portion for you before it was all used, implying that it has all been used. And I think they're getting a little bit of a retcon here, because flicking back to the pages of Transformers issue number 25, it did look like there was a ginormous hoard of Energon, an almost unlimited amount of Energon deposits that would be used in perpetuity. But I think that isn't a helpful constraint for the dynamic and challenges of Transformers, where having Energon as a very limited, scarce resource to be fought over is probably a much more useful plot dynamic.
Is it possible that when Miles Mayhem escaped with his helicopter jet, was some of this Energon destroyed or damaged?
Not that I noticed, but okay. If you know better, then
maybe they needed a lot of it to revive Mirage and Bulkhead there, and there was only a little bit left for everyone who's just hungry, not half dead.
It is described as a stockpile, so so yeah, we a bit of a, I think, a slight little bit of a retcon there to show it all being used up, but yeah, never mind. And then we've got
get this final page, get this 2-page scene, which
it feels like changes everything. It's like a kind of like a Marvel movie or Invincible cartoon, post-credit kind of scene that you've had the main adventure and then boom, an extra little scene at the end.
Wait, no, can you go back to the final page of the Optimus scene? We haven't said this episode. Joes are keeping secrets from each other.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Duke was really upset when it turns out that Clutch and Risk were keeping a secret from him. I think half because he's their commanding officer and they shouldn't keep secrets from him, and half because it involved one of these invaders, and one of these invaders killed his friend. So it's personal for him. Like, no, you got to tell me if there's one of these robots hiding in under my nose. And on page 18 of this issue, Clutch says, Duke, Hawk is pissed we took off. Are we telling him about our new friend? And Duke says, let's keep this to ourselves. So now Duke is keeping secrets from from Hawk. So
with an implication that Duke doesn't necessarily completely trust Hawk, or possibly is just having a little bit of revenge for the secrets that he thinks that Hawk is keeping from him. But also there's another dynamic at play here, which is that Hawk, in inverted commas, who is actually Zartan, knows about Hound, so will know that they are keeping this secret from him. So Hawk has got the secret that he is Zartan, and that he knows they've got a transformer, but has to pretend that he doesnent know, possibly. So there we go. And then we've got the final scene with CoverGirl and Snowjob on the streets of Japan.
Okay, so this scene is like it's not an epilogue, but it's like a 2-page continuation many weeks or months after the Scarlet miniseries. And because it takes place in Japan, and the Scarlet miniseries took place in Japan, because it has Snowjob, and he shows up in that miniseries, but it now connects. Also, there's one panel that sort of draws a scene that represents that whole miniseries, where we see Jinx, Storm Shadow with the Energon sword, and Scarlet with some ninja behind them. But this scene isn't like an epilogue; it's a continuation, because it's CoverGirl who's showing up to give Snowjob this news, and just look at how much information is presented on page 19 of this issue of G.I. Joe. It's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels, right? You've got this really descriptive establishing shot that's less than 1/4 of the page, where we see some like lit up signs and also lanterns. We're in an alley, but the flooring of the alley is like a stone pattern, and you see some like crates and a drain, like a rain drain, or don't dump grease down this next to the restaurant drain, and someone's walking, and then we see her come in, and there's this one light that's spotlighting Snow Job, and oh well, this is like a sushi restaurant, because you just immediately see with just like 15 lines and a couple curves, Andrea Milana draws, like the person behind the counter at the sushi restaurant, and then she sits down and they talk, and there's just little bits of details on the wall, and then some good bits of acting where she comes in, she's like fixing her hat, and then looks sort of doubtful, and he takes the paper from her, she slides it to him, he's got a beer. There's all this stuff going on this page, so that and this is in the script. It's not like Milana invented this all on his own. So Williamson and Milana are doing this in conjunction. And then you turn the page and you get this 2/3 page splash where it's like dun dun dun. So Mark, what do you think?
I think it's good. I think there's a lot of heavy lifting going on that first page. They had the Scarlet miniseries. That was quite a long time ago now, I guess 2 years ago. People might not have read it, or they might have just forgotten it a little bit. And it's serving as a really nice sort of recap of that, as well as sort of building up the plot for what is to come. It's also establishing a little frisson, a bit of shared history between CoverGirl and Snow Job. She says, keep your mind on the mission, after he sort of alludes to a little bit of fun they had previously. And now, we've got this wanted dead or alive poster for Scarlet, which seems a little bit extreme. She's an agent out in the field, dead or alive.
But who would have ordered that? Maybe a bad guy in disguise as a good guy?
Exactly. It's a bit of a red flag around, not Flag's behavior, but Hawk's behavior, who is actually a bad guy, Zartan.
A red flag with 1 G.
Yes. Scarlet is coming back, whether she likes it or not, leading us into what we might expect to be followed up in issue 21, a silent issue featuring Scarlet.
Do we know that it's silent?
Right, I gave a bit of a spoiler there because there's been a 3-page preview released of issue 21.
Is it definitely silent, or is it an unlettered preview? Also, if you put it on screen, I'm looking away.
No, it's just the cover thing, so that I can put given that we're talking about that now. Okay. So out on the 15th of April, G.I. Joe issue 21, the 3-page preview is lettered with caption boxes, but no dialogue boxes. So I think it's going to be a silent issue that features captions, narration, not speech. But that is on the basis of 3 pages in a preview. So we shall see. But I would be surprised actually if it was anything other than a version of a silent issue. We also know that issue number 21 is coming to us from the team of Tom Riley, back on art, this time coloured by Lee Loughridge. On the early sort of preview of this cover, there wasn't a credited colorist, which made me wonder. That could mean 3 things. 1, it's black and white, like a kind of like a manga, like it's kind of leaning into that aesthetic. It could be coloured by Tom Riley, or it could be that they just hadn't figured out who was going to colour the thing yet, and I think that's the option that has come to fruition. So it is the regular colorist of these last few issues, Lee Loughridge, who also coloured the Scarlet miniseries. So there's a bit of continuity there, but I can't say I wasn't slightly disappointed that it wasn't the regular colorist of Geordie Belair, given how good she is as a team, as a partner for.
Or Riley himself, considering how good his cover colors are. Can you go back to the last page? Another reason why this 2-page scene in Japan with CoverGirl and Snowjob was fun for me is that Marco Ferrari drew the Scarlet miniseries, and of all of the artists who have drawn anything for the Energon universe, his stuff looks the most like manga, although with like American characters and more American coloring, much less coloring. It might jump out a little bit less as like very manga, but to me it is. And I really liked it at the time. And he's done some stuff for DC, and I keep hoping if there's slots needed to be filled with great artists, Skybound might get him back, but unclear if that'll happen. But there is a little bit of sympathy in how these 2 pages look, because Andrea Milana's art, though quite different from Marco Ferrari's art on Scarlet, they are sort of more similar than dissimilar. And so seeing these 2 pages with an artist who draws kind of similarly with this character, these 2 characters, Scarlet and Snowjob, with this similar coloring, I thought, for in some subtle ways, in that I wanted the Scarlet story to continue. We're not going to get a second miniseries. There's not going to be some like surprise issue 6. It's like what they've been doing since then, or the story is just going to continue in G.I. Joe, and that's fine. But in some subtle but specific ways, it felt like more of that story, right? It's almost like oh, they filmed like one more scene at the time, and you get to go into the editing room, and they'll like the producer of the movie showing it to you, sort of.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the strangest thing to me if there was a second Scarlet miniseries from the same team. So yeah, you never know.
Take my money.
So then we've got the letters page. The most interesting bit from the letters page for me is the Joshua Williamson sort of commentary. He said, "The time has come, Duke and Optimus. This issue is a prelude of sorts to a lot of the big pieces between G.I. Joe and Transformers in the Energon universe. There was a part of me that could see Duke and Optimus fighting, but after the events of issue 19 and the recent Transformers issues, I knew what the issue needed to be. Once Duke learned that Starscream was dead, the whole tone of the issue shifts, and I really wanted to show that scene, to really hit Duke hard with the truth that we and the readers knew, but he did not." Thoughtful and interesting commentary. I think, when you get into the brain of the writer a little bit like that, it's one of the best things that you can hope from a letters page. So skipping ahead to...
I'll say one other quick thing. I might be getting mixed up, but I think 2 or 3 months ago, an email went out to retailers, and I'm a retailer, and it was another one of these, Skybound is having a Zoom call with 1 or 2 of the writers, and we're going to tell you what's going to happen in a couple months in a really key issue. Remember, this like happened with Void Rivals #1, way before Void Rivals #1 shipped, and everyone kept the surprise. There's a Transformer in it. It's launching a new shared universe. And if I'm remembering correctly, there was going to be a Zoom call for retailers where it's like, some status quo is changing in G.I. Joe 20. It may have just been a regular email, and that was the blurb. But I want to go to those meetings because it's fun. And then if something's crazy, I know to order more copies for my store. As a reader, I don't want to go to those meetings because I want to be surprised when I just read the comic. And maybe it was about Transformers 30 and not G.I. Joe 20. Maybe it was about both. But in both cases, I'm glad that I just got to experience these 2 issues as a reader, turning the page and being surprised.
I just remembered something, Tim, that last time we talked about maybe the G.I. Joe arc that we're currently in might be called The Hunt for Energon when it comes to being a trade paperback reprint. And we were right. That is the name of the next G.I. Joe trade paperback. It's called The Hunt for Energon. So we're good at what we do. So in the future, we can explore the Energon universe further through the pages of the Void Rivals. We're still in the middle of the Quintesson War. The next issue out will be part 4 of the Quintesson War in in issue number 28, with a subplot featuring Pythona and her Royal Guard team continuing in the pages of Void Rivals. Transformers issue 31 will be out on April the 8th. That comes to us from the artist Ludo Lullaby, which it looks to sort of follow up on a Megatron flashback that he had previously worked on an earlier issue, as well as G.I. Joe issue number 21 on April 15th, a month from now. Storm Shadow and Scarlet return. The Arishikage and Cobra have met once before. Prepare for round 2. Will G.I. Joe be forced to put a stop to it? And then also in the Energon Universe, look forward to the Energon Universe special, which will be out on Free Comic Book Day, Saturday, May the 2nd. But before then, we've got April, and the whole month will be G.I. Joe month, because each week we'll be getting one of the silent missions. This year, the silent missions are featuring Cobra characters brought to us from a different creative team each week. So that should be a lot of fun. And the Kickstarter hardcover compendium will be launched very soon. I think that is on the 24th of March, if I'm remembering correctly. That is the compendium number. The Kickstarter hardcover set. It will give you the option to pick up volume 1, or set 1, which was the first 4 hardcovers reprinting the ARA Marvel era, as well as hardcovers 5 through 8 in the second set, which will reprint the IDW era from Larry Hama, with potentially some interesting elements in there, which we will find out once I think the Kickstarter goes live. So what beyond issues 155.5 through to 300, what else will be included? I think
I'm going to guess the Storm Shadow series.
Yep, hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully. So I think that is basically it for G.I. Joe news. So we can do our round up. If you are new to Talking Joe, talkingjoe.co.uk is the website, points you to all of the places we can be found. Make sure you have liked and subscribed. If you're on YouTube, you can buy some merch. It will be discounted tomorrow at the time of recording. So it's got the links to our TeePublic, and also join in with the Facebook group and the discussion over there if you're not yet a member there. Tim, where can you be found?
Atomic Abe, that's at YouTube. Hub Comics, that's a store. And a realamericanbook.com, that's a blog.
And also, Tim is editor of The Center Holds from Boom. Issue number 2 will be on the racks very soon.
Yes, and if you're watching this live or listening to it just a week after we record, tell your comic book store to order issue 3. FOC ordering deadline for issue 3 is Monday, March 30th.
And this is a limited series, so it is not a perpetual or indefinite commitment. It will come to the end after, is it 4 or 5 issues?
4. First issue was double-sized, so it's a 4-issue miniseries.
Perfect. So I think we have done with everything in what we call the Full Force Weekly warm-up show. So before you hop off over to the Full Force channel to find out the latest news from Chris, including, I suspect, a look at the preview to issue number 21, if you've not yet seen that. Tim, was there anything that you wanted to tell people?
Nobody Beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Laters, till next time, dear listeners and viewers.